I found out my husband was hiding a child from another woman, and the shocking truth unfolded. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I never thought I'd be the woman writing this story. I was the one who believed in love, in trust, in the sacred vows we took 7 years ago under a canopy of white roses. I was the woman who looked at my husband across the breakfast table every morning and felt grateful. Grateful for his kindness, his reliability, the way he remembered to buy my favorite coffee beans without being asked. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or so I believed. My name is Sarah, and until 3 months ago, I thought I knew everything about the man I married. I was wrong. David and I met at a charity fundraiser in Boston. I was 26, working as a marketing consultant, still believing that life would unfold exactly as I planned it. He was 30, charming in that understated way that made you feel like you'd discovered something precious that others had overlooked. He wore a navy suit that night, and when he laughed at my terrible joke about corporate buzzwords, I felt something shift inside me. Our courtship was a dream. Weekend trips to Vermont, long conversations about everything and nothing, the kind of intimacy that makes you feel like you've known someone your entire life. He proposed on a beach in Cape Cod, the ring tucked inside a sand dollar he'd found that morning. I cried. He cried. It was perfect. We married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. My mother worried we were rushing, but I knew. When you know, you know. That's what everyone says, right? David was my person, the one I'd been waiting for. Our life together unfolded like a well-written novel. We bought a colonial house in Newton, with a backyard perfect for the children we planned to have. David worked as a financial advisor, building a solid career that allowed us comfort without excess. I continued my work, eventually starting my own small consulting firm. We traveled to Italy for our 2nd anniversary, hiked the Appalachian Trail for our 4th, and spent lazy Sundays reading the newspaper in bed. But there were things I noticed. Small things that I dismissed because I loved him, because I trusted him, because questioning him felt like questioning the foundation of everything I'd built my life upon. David never talked about his past relationships. When I asked about old girlfriends, he'd shrug and say there was nothing worth discussing. No dramatic breakups, no lost loves, just a series of relationships that fizzled out naturally. He had no photos from his 20s displayed anywhere, no college friends who came around with embarrassing stories. His life seemed to have begun the night he met me, and I found that romantic rather than suspicious. He kept his home office locked, not ostentatiously, not with a deadbolt and security system, just a simple lock that he said kept our curious cat from knocking papers off his desk. I respected his need for a private workspace. Everyone deserves boundaries, I told myself. There were phone calls he'd take in another room, nothing frequent enough to alarm me, maybe once or twice a month. He'd glance at the screen, his expression flickering with something I couldn't quite read, then excuse himself to the garage or the backyard. When I asked who it was, he'd say a client with tax questions or his mother checking in. His mother called often, so this seemed plausible. Money disappeared from our joint account occasionally. Small amounts, 300 here, 500 there. When I mentioned it, David explained it was cash for tips, parking, lunches with clients. We were financially secure, so I didn't press. Why ruin a pleasant evening over a few $100s? Looking back now, I see how deliberately I avoided the truth. I see how I smoothed over every rough edge, explained away every inconsistency, because the alternative was too terrifying to consider. The alternative meant my life was built on sand. Everything changed on a Tuesday in late July. I was home alone, a rare occurrence since I usually worked from coffee shops for a change of scenery. David was at a conference in Chicago, wouldn't be back until Thursday. The air conditioning had broken, and the repairman needed access to the basement where the unit connected to the ductwork. Our basement was David's domain. He'd set up a workshop down there, kept old files and documents in metal cabinets, stored seasonal decorations in labeled boxes. I rarely ventured down except to throw laundry in the washer. But the repairman needed space to work, so I went down to move some boxes out of his way. That's when I found it. I was shifting a box labeled Tax Documents 2015-2017 when the bottom gave way, papers scattering across the concrete floor. Cursing, I knelt to gather them up. Most were exactly what the label promised: old tax returns, receipts, bank statements. But underneath, in a manila envelope that had been taped to the inside of the box, I found something else. A birth certificate. My hands trembled as I read the words printed in official black ink. Child's name: Emma Rose Patterson. Date of birth: March 15, 2016. Mother's name: Rebecca Ann Patterson. Father's name: David Michael Harrison. David Michael Harrison. My husband. The paper slipped from my fingers. I sat there on the cold basement floor, the sound of the repairman's tools clanging above me, and felt my entire world fracture. Emma Rose Patterson was 7 years old, born 3 years before David and I married, born to a woman named Rebecca Patterson, whose name I'd never heard my husband speak. I had no children. We'd been trying for 2 years with no success. Every month brought disappointment. Every negative pregnancy test another small heartbreak. David held me through it all, promised we'd keep trying, suggested we see a specialist, and the entire time he had a daughter, a 7-year-old daughter he'd never mentioned, a child who existed while he kissed me goodnight, while he made love to me, while he promised me we'd be parents someday. The repairman called down, asking if I was okay. I couldn't answer. I couldn't breathe. I don't remember the repairman finishing his work or leaving. I sat in the basement for what might have been minutes or hours, staring at that birth certificate until the words blurred together. Emma Rose Patterson, my husband's daughter, a secret wrapped in manila paper and hidden in the dark. When I finally climbed the stairs, the house felt different. Every framed photo on the wall seemed like a lie. Every piece of furniture we'd chosen together, every color we'd painted the walls, every memory we'd made felt tainted. How do you live in a home built on deception? I called my best friend Melissa. She answered on the second ring, immediately sensing something was wrong. Sarah, what happened? I told her everything. She listened in silence, then said the words I needed to hear. Don't confront him yet. Find out everything first. You need to know what you're dealing with. She was right. I couldn't walk into this blind. David was skilled at explaining things away, at making me doubt my own perceptions. I'd seen him do it with small things throughout our marriage. If I confronted him now, unprepared, he'd have an explanation ready. He'd make me feel foolish for doubting him. I couldn't let that happen, not this time. I took photos of the birth certificate with my phone. Then I carefully repacked the box exactly as I'd found it, taped the envelope back into place, and returned it to the basement. If David noticed anything amiss, this conversation would happen on his terms, not mine. I needed time. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining David with another woman, imagining him holding a baby girl, imagining him living an entire life I knew nothing about. Had he loved Rebecca Patterson? Did he still love her? Where was she now? Where was Emma? The questions multiplied like bacteria, infectious and overwhelming. By dawn, I'd made a decision. I would find Rebecca Patterson. I would find out everything. I started with social media. Rebecca Patterson was a common enough name, but paired with Emma Rose and the year 2016, I narrowed it down. I found her on Facebook after an hour of searching. Her profile was mostly private, but her profile picture showed a woman with auburn hair and kind eyes, standing on a beach with the sun behind her. No sign of a child in the visible photos, no mention of David, I created a fake account and sent her a message. Simple, unthreatening. Hi, Rebecca. I'm trying to reconnect with old friends from the Boston area. I think we may have mutual acquaintances. Would love to chat if you have time. I didn't expect a response. But 2 hours later, my phone pinged. Hi. Always happy to meet new people. What mutual friends did you have in mind? My heart raced. I typed carefully. I'm actually trying to locate someone named David Harrison. We lost touch years ago, and I heard through the grapevine that you might know him. Long shot, I know. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. 5 minutes passed. 10. 15. Finally, a response. I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you with that. I hope you find who you're looking for. Then, immediately after, another message. Please don't contact me again about this. She blocked me. I stared at my phone, pulse hammering. Her reaction told me everything. Rebecca Patterson knew David, and whatever their history, it was something she wanted buried. I tried a different approach. Public records. Birth certificates are public documents in Massachusetts, so Emma's existence wasn't sealed or hidden. But there had to be more. Court records, property records, anything that would connect David to Rebecca and Emma. I hired a private investigator. His name was Robert Chen, recommended by Melissa's divorce attorney. I met him in a small office in Cambridge, the kind of place with water-stained ceiling tiles and windows that overlooked a parking lot. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I showed him the birth certificate photo. I need to know everything, I said. Who she is, where they are, what my husband's involvement is. Everything. Robert nodded slowly. This kind of thing, it can get ugly. You sure you want to know? Sometimes ignorance is easier. I'm sure. Okay, give me a week. He called me 6 days later. David was still in Chicago, scheduled to return the next evening. Robert asked me to come to his office. The manila folder he slid across his desk was thick. My hands shook as I opened it. Rebecca Ann Patterson, 36 years old, Robert began. She lives in Portland, Maine, works as a pediatric nurse at Maine Medical Center, never married, no criminal record, no major debts, lives a quiet life by all accounts. And Emma? Lives with her mother, attends Oak Ridge Elementary School. By all appearances, she's a normal, healthy 7-year-old kid. And David, what's his connection? Robert leaned back in his chair. That's where it gets complicated. Your husband has been sending Rebecca Patterson money every month for the past 7 years. $5,000, like clockwork, deposited into her account on the 1st of every month. $5,000. For 7 years. I did the math quickly. Over $400,000. He's been supporting them, I whispered. Looks that way. But here's the interesting part. I couldn't find any custody agreement. No court orders, no formal child support arrangement. It's all informal, all voluntary. What does that mean? Could mean a lot of things. Could mean they have a private arrangement and never went through the courts. Could mean he's paying her off to keep quiet. Could mean he's a devoted father who's staying out of his daughter's life for reasons we don't understand yet. I felt sick. What else? Robert hesitated. There's something else. Rebecca Patterson didn't live in Boston when Emma was born. She lived in Portland. Always has. She and David never lived together, never shared an address. Whatever their relationship was, it wasn't traditional. So they weren't together? Not in any way I can document. No shared leases, no joint accounts, no paper trail of a relationship at all. Just money transfers and a birth certificate with his name on it. I tried to process this. David had a child with a woman he'd apparently never lived with, in a city 2 hours away from where he'd lived at the time. He'd been sending her money for 7 years without any legal obligation to do so, and he'd never mentioned any of it. There's one more thing, Robert said quietly. I found an old police report from March 2016. Rebecca Patterson filed a report claiming harassment. No arrests were made, and she dropped it a few days later. The name of the accused was redacted in the public record, but the timing matches Emma's birth, You think David was harassing her? I think something happened in March 2016 that scared Rebecca Patterson enough to go to the police, and then she suddenly dropped it. Around the same time, the money transfers started. The implication hung in the air between us. Hush money. David was paying Rebecca to keep quiet about something. But what? If Emma was his daughter, why hide her? If he'd done something criminal, why wasn't he arrested? Nothing made sense. I need to talk to her, I said. Rebecca, I need to hear her side. Robert shook his head. I'd advise against that. If she blocked you online, she doesn't want contact. Showing up in person could backfire. I don't care. I need answers. I drove to Portland the next morning. David wasn't home until evening, which gave me time. The drive took just under 2 hours, and I spent every minute rehearsing what I'd say. By the time I pulled up to Rebecca Patterson's modest Cape Cod-style house on a tree-lined street, I'd rehearsed a dozen different conversations. None of them prepared me for what happened next. I knocked on the door at 10 in the morning. A woman answered. The same auburn-haired woman from the Facebook photo. She looked at me with confusion that quickly turned to alarm. Can I help you? My name is Sarah Harrison. I'm David Harrison's wife. I need to talk to you about Emma. Rebecca's face went pale. She gripped the doorframe like she might collapse. You need to leave, she said. Right now, please. I just want to understand. I found Emma's birth certificate. I know David is sending you money. I need to know why he never told me about her. I need to know what happened. He didn't tell you? Rebecca's voice cracked. Of course he didn't tell you. That was the agreement. That was the whole point. What agreement? Please, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need the truth. Rebecca looked over my shoulder, scanning the street like she expected someone to appear. Then she made a decision. She stepped aside. 5 minutes. Then you leave and never come back. I followed her into a living room decorated with children's drawings and family photos. I saw Emma in those photos, a beautiful girl with blonde hair and her mother's eyes. David's eyes, too, I realized with a jolt. She had David's eyes. Rebecca didn't offer me a seat. She stood with her arms crossed, defensive. What do you want to know? Everything. How did you meet David? When did you have Emma? Why did he never tell me about her? Rebecca laughed, a bitter sound. You really don't know anything, do you? He really kept you completely in the dark. Please. She took a deep breath. I met David 9 years ago. I was working at a hospital in Portland, living my life. A friend set us up on a blind date. He seemed nice, stable. We dated for about 4 months, nothing serious. He lived in Boston. I lived here. We'd see each other on weekends, talk on the phone. Normal relationship stuff. And then I got pregnant. It wasn't planned. I was on birth control, but these things happen. I told David, and he freaked out. Said he wasn't ready to be a father. Said we barely knew each other. Said he needed time to think. My chest tightened. What happened? He asked me to get an abortion. I refused. I told him I was keeping the baby, with or without his support. He disappeared, blocked my number, stopped answering emails. I was 4 months pregnant when I finally got a message from him through a lawyer. A lawyer? Rebecca nodded. David offered me money. A lot of money. He'd pay for everything related to the pregnancy and birth, and then he'd pay child support. Generous child support. $5,000 a month. But there were conditions. What conditions? I could never contact him directly. Everything had to go through the lawyer. I could never tell anyone he was Emma's father. I could never file for official child support or custody. He'd be listed on the birth certificate, but he'd have no involvement in Emma's life. Ever. And if I violated any of these terms, the money would stop immediately. I felt like I'd been punched. He paid you to pretend Emma doesn't exist? He paid me to raise her on my own and never mention his name. I was a single woman, pregnant and alone. $5,000 a month was enough to give Emma a good life. I took the deal. The police report, in March 2016. What was that about? Rebecca's expression hardened. I tried to fight it. After Emma was born and I held her for the first time, I realized how wrong it all was. She deserved a father. I tried to contact David directly, went to his office in Boston. He had security escort me out. I was sleep-deprived, emotional, probably looked insane. I filed a harassment report because I was angry and hurt and desperate. Then David's lawyer contacted me and reminded me of our agreement, threatened to stop the payments if I didn't drop it. So I dropped it. And you've never seen him since? Not once. Emma thinks her father is dead. I told her he died before she was born. It seemed kinder than the truth. I sat down on Rebecca's couch without asking permission. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Why? I whispered. Why would he do this? I've asked myself that question for 7 years. Maybe he's a coward. Maybe he never wanted children. Maybe he had some bigger plan for his life that didn't include a baby from a relationship that didn't work out. I don't know. I stopped trying to understand him a long time ago. Did you love him? Rebecca considered this. I thought I might. But you can't love someone you don't really know, and I clearly never knew David at all. Whatever he showed me, it wasn't real. The real David is the man who paid me to erase him from his daughter's life. I thought of the David I knew, the man who wanted children so badly we'd been trying for 2 years. The man who got emotional watching father-daughter moments in movies. The man who claimed family was everything to him. He told me he wanted children, I said. We've been trying for 2 years. Every month, when the pregnancy test comes back negative, he holds me and tells me it'll happen when it's meant to happen. Rebecca's expression softened. I'm sorry. I know this must be destroying you, but you asked for the truth, and that's it. That's all I know. Has he ever asked about Emma? Ever tried to see her? Never. The money arrives every month like clockwork, and that's the only proof I have that he remembers she exists. Does Emma ever ask about him? Sometimes. She wants to know what he looked like, what he did for a living, if he would have loved her. I make up stories, kind stories. I tell her he was brave and smart and that he would have adored her. I don't know if any of it's true, but I can't tell a 7-year-old that her father wants nothing to do with her. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, I could hear children playing in a yard somewhere, their laughter drifting through the open window. I should go, I finally said. Rebecca walked me to the door. Before I left, she touched my arm. Whatever you decide to do, please don't involve Emma. She's innocent in all of this. She has a good life. She's happy. Please don't destroy that because you're angry at David. I won't, I promised. I drove home in a daze. The man I married was a stranger. Every tender moment we'd shared, every promise he'd made, every dream we'd built together was a lie. He'd abandoned his own daughter and then pretended to be heartbroken that we couldn't conceive. The cruelty of it was staggering. David came home that evening at 7:30. I was sitting in the living room with a glass of wine, waiting. Hey, honey, he said, dropping his bag by the door and kissing my forehead. I missed you. How was your week? I looked up at him. This man I'd loved for 7 years. This stranger. Who is Emma Rose Patterson? I watched the color drain from his face, watched him freeze, his hand still on his bag, watched him calculate, trying to figure out what I knew and how I'd learned it. Sarah, I can explain. Don't. My voice was steady, cold. Don't try to explain. Don't try to lie your way out of this. I know everything. I found the birth certificate. I hired an investigator. I met Rebecca. I know about the money, the agreement, all of it. David sank into a chair. He looked suddenly older, like the weight of his secrets had been physically aging him, and I was only now seeing it. How long have you known? He asked quietly. A week. I wanted to get all the facts before I confronted you. I'm so glad I did, because you were about to lie to me, again. Sarah, please. You have a daughter, a 7-year-old daughter who thinks you're dead, and you let me believe we were having trouble conceiving when the whole time you already had a child you'd abandoned. I didn't abandon her. I make sure she's taken care of. Money isn't being a father. I was shouting now, the control I'd maintained all week finally snapping. You wrote checks and disappeared. You paid Rebecca to keep your daughter a secret. From everyone. From me. You married me knowing you had a child, and you never said a word. I was going to tell you, David said weakly. When? When exactly were you planning to mention it? On our 10th anniversary? When Emma turned 18? When? He had no answer. Why? I asked, my voice breaking. Why did you do it? If you didn't want to be a father, why did you marry me and pretend you did? Why did you let me think there was something wrong with me when we couldn't get pregnant? David put his face in his hands. When he spoke, his voice was muffled. Because I was ashamed. Because I panicked when Rebecca got pregnant, and I handled it in the worst way possible, and then it was too late to fix it. I couldn't go back. I couldn't face what I'd done. So I buried it and tried to build a different life. A life with me, built on lies. I love you, Sarah. That was never a lie. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I wanted to be different with you. I wanted to be the man you thought I was. But you weren't. You aren't. You're a man who abandoned his child and hid her from his wife for 7 years. That's who you really are. The silence that followed was deafening. David looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. What do you want me to do? I'd been asking myself that question all week. What did I want? An apology? An explanation? My old life back? I want you to tell me the truth about everything. No more lies. No more omissions. I want to know exactly who I married. And so he told me. David explained that he'd been terrified of fatherhood his entire life. His own father had been cruel, absent when he was present, and David had sworn he'd never have children. When Rebecca got pregnant, he'd panicked. He'd convinced himself that he'd destroy any child he raised, that he'd turn into his father. So he'd done what seemed logical at the time. He'd provided financially, but removed himself entirely from Emma's life. Then he met me. And with me, he felt different. He felt like maybe he could be a good father after all. But by then, Emma existed, and the lies had already been told. He couldn't figure out how to reconcile his two lives, so he kept them separate. He told himself he was protecting me by not burdening me with his past mistakes. I kept trying to get pregnant with you because I wanted to prove I could be a good father, he said. I wanted a chance to do it right this time. So Emma was your practice run? Your mistake that you could just throw money at? No, He stopped. Yes. That's exactly what I did. God, Sarah, I know how terrible this is. I know I can't justify it. I was a coward. I am a coward. I stood up. I need you to leave, tonight. Go to a hotel or a friend's place. I can't look at you right now. Sarah, please. Go. Now. He left. I heard his car start and pull out of the driveway, and then I was alone in the house we'd built together. I sat there until midnight, then went upstairs to our bedroom. I looked at the photos on the dresser, the wedding pictures and vacation snapshots. I looked at the man in those photos and didn't recognize him. The next 3 weeks were a blur. I moved through the motions of my life like a ghost. David stayed with a friend and texted me every day, begging to talk. I ignored him. I told my parents we were having problems, but didn't specify what kind. I told Melissa everything, and she held me while I cried. I couldn't stop thinking about Emma, a 7-year-old girl who didn't know her father was alive, who thought she'd been loved by a man who died before she could know him. The cruelty of David's abandonment haunted me. I also couldn't stop thinking about Rebecca, single mother, raising a child alone, bound by an agreement that kept her from ever seeking David's involvement. The lawyer's letters, the monthly payments, the constant reminder that Emma's father chose money over presents. One night, I made a decision. I drove back to Portland. It was early October now, the leaves starting to turn. I knocked on Rebecca's door at 6 p.m, when I knew Emma would likely be home from school. Rebecca opened the door with alarm. Sarah, I told you. I know, I'm sorry. but I need to talk to you about something. It's important." She hesitated, then let me in. A small blonde girl sat at the kitchen table, doing homework. Emma. I felt my breath catch. She looked like David, unmistakably. The same eyes, the same shape to her face. My husband's daughter. "Emma, honey, why don't you go play in your room for a bit?" Rebecca said gently. "But I'm not done with my math." "You can finish it later. Go ahead." Emma collected her books and headed upstairs, curious but obedient. When I heard her bedroom door close, Rebecca turned to me. "What are you doing here?" "I left David. I'm filing for divorce. But before I do, I wanted to talk to you about something." Rebecca's expression was wary. "Okay. That agreement you made with David, the one that says you can't seek custody or support through the courts, you signed it under duress. You were pregnant and alone, and he used his money and power to force you into an unfair arrangement. A good lawyer could tear it apart." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you don't have to accept his terms anymore. You can fight for Emma's rights. She deserves to know her father, or at the very least, she deserves for him to be legally responsible for her. Not through some private arrangement, but through official channels that protect her." Rebecca shook her head. "I can't. If I break the agreement, the money stops. I can't support Emma on my salary alone, not with everything she needs. Dance classes, summer camp, college someday. I need that money." "You won't lose it. When I divorce David, the court will divide our assets. We have substantial savings, property, investments. I'll make sure Emma is provided for. Not through David's hush money, but through a legitimate support system." "Why would you do that? You don't owe us anything. This isn't your responsibility." "Because it's the right thing to do. Emma didn't choose any of this. She deserves better than to be a secret. And honestly," I paused, "I'm angry. I'm angrier than I've ever been in my life. David destroyed our marriage with his lies. He destroyed your life when he abandoned Emma. Someone needs to hold him accountable." Rebecca studied me for a long moment. "You're serious?" "Completely. I'm meeting with a divorce lawyer tomorrow. I'll make sure she knows about Emma. We'll establish official child support through the courts. David won't be able to hide anymore." "He'll fight it." "Let him. The truth is on our side." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe you're doing this. After everything, you're helping us." "I'm helping Emma. She's innocent in all of this." I left Portland that night, feeling like I'd finally done something right. The next day, I met with Amanda Wright, a divorce attorney Melissa recommended. Amanda was sharp, experienced, and when I told her about Emma, her eyes lit up. "This changes everything. David will have to disclose his financial support of Emma in the divorce proceedings. Once that's on record, we can push for proper child support arrangements through the court. Rebecca will have legal recourse, and Emma will have documentation of her father's responsibilities." "What about the agreement? Can David use that to claim Rebecca can't file for support?" Amanda smiled. "Agreements made without legal representation, under financial duress, regarding child welfare? Those get invalidated all the time. David's lawyers knew that when they drew it up. They were betting Rebecca would never challenge it. But she is now. But she is now. The divorce papers were filed in mid-October. David showed up at the house the day he was served, devastated. "Sarah, please, we can work through this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need. Please don't do this. You don't get to ask me for anything. You lied to me for 7 years. You abandoned your daughter. You don't get to beg for second chances. I'll do better. I'll go to Portland. I'll meet Emma. I'll be the father I should have been. Just give me a chance to prove." "Stop. You think Emma wants to meet you now? You think showing up after 7 years because your wife forced your hand makes you a good father? You had 7 years to do the right thing, and you chose not to. Over and over again, you chose not to." "I was afraid," he whispered. "We're all afraid. Every parent is afraid they'll mess up their kids. But real parents show up anyway. You just ran away and threw money at the problem." David slumped against the doorframe. "Is there anything I can do? Anything at all?" I thought about that. About Emma. who deserved to know her father, about Rebecca, who deserved support that wasn't contingent on her silence, about myself and what I needed to heal. Yes, I said finally, you can go to Portland and meet your daughter. Really meet her, not as a check you sign every month, but as a human being who exists because of you. You can apologize to Rebecca for what you put her through, and you can work with my lawyer to establish proper child support and custody arrangements that give Emma stability and legal protection. And us? Is there any chance for us? I looked at him, this man I'd loved and trusted and built a life with. I tried to find some remnant of the person I'd thought he was, but all I saw was a stranger who'd lied to me every day for 7 years. No, we're done. The divorce took 4 months. David didn't contest it. He did what I asked. He went to Portland, met Emma, and started seeing a therapist to work through his issues with fatherhood. Rebecca reported that the meetings were awkward, but that Emma seemed interested in getting to know him. It would take time, maybe years, for them to build any kind of real relationship. But at least it was happening. The financial settlement was fair. David kept his business. I kept the house. We split our savings and investments. And as part of the divorce decree, David was ordered to pay official child support for Emma through the courts. $5,000 a month, same as before, but now it was legal, documented, and protected. Rebecca would never have to worry about the money stopping because she violated some secret agreement. I signed the final papers in February on a day when snow was falling softly outside the lawyer's office. Amanda handed me my copies, and I felt something inside me loosen. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Free," I said. "Sad, but free." It's been 3 months since the divorce was finalized. I'm still living in the house in Newton, though I've been thinking about selling it. Too many memories here, too many ghosts. I've been dating a little, nothing serious, just remembering what it's like to talk to someone without wondering what they're hiding. Rebecca and I have become unlikely friends. She sends me photos of Emma sometimes, updates about her life. Emma's doing well in school, apparently. She loves dance class and wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She's cautiously optimistic about having a father now, though she doesn't quite trust it yet. Smart kid. David sees Emma twice a month. Rebecca says he's trying, really trying, to be present. He's awkward and clearly terrified of messing up, but he shows up. That's more than he did before. As for me, I'm learning who I am outside of my marriage. I'm learning to trust my instincts instead of dismissing them. I'm learning that love isn't enough if it's built on lies, and that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away from someone who hurt you, even if they're sorry. I don't know if David will ever truly make amends for what he did. I don't know if Emma will forgive him, or if Rebecca will ever stop being wary around him. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust anyone again the way I trusted him, but I do know this. I'm stronger than I thought I was. I survived the shattering of my entire world. I looked at the ugliest truth about the person I loved most and didn't look away. I made hard choices that hurt but were necessary. Last week, Rebecca called me. Emma had asked about me, wanted to know who I was and why I'd helped her mom. Rebecca wasn't sure what to say. "Tell her the truth," I said. "Tell her I was married to her father, and when I found out about her, I wanted to make sure she was taken care of. Tell her that sometimes people make terrible mistakes, but other people can help fix them." "She wants to meet you," Rebecca said quietly. "If you're comfortable with that." I thought about it for a long time. Meeting Emma felt like crossing some invisible line, getting involved in a way I'd never intended. But then I thought about a 7-year-old girl who'd spent her whole life thinking her father was dead, only to discover he'd been alive all along and simply chose not to know her. A girl who was trying to make sense of adult failures and cruelty. "Okay," I said. "I'd like that." We met at a park in Portland on a Saturday afternoon in late April. The cherry blossoms were blooming, and children played on the playground equipment. Emma was shy at first, hiding behind Rebecca's leg, but eventually she came and sat beside me on the bench. "You're pretty," she said, which made me laugh. "Thank you. So are you. Mom says you helped us." "How?" I chose my words carefully. "Your dad and I aren't married anymore. But before we stopped being married, I found out about you. And I thought you deserved to have your dad be a real part of your life, not just a secret. So I helped make that happen." Emma considered this. "Are you mad at me? Because of my dad?" My heart broke a little. "Oh, sweetheart, no. I'm not mad at you at all. You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault. Dad says he made a lot of mistakes. He says he should have been there when I was born. He should have, but he's trying now, and that's important. Do you miss him?" I thought about that. Did I miss David? I missed the version of him I thought existed, the man I'd fallen in love with. But that man had never been real. I miss who I thought he was," I said honestly. "But the real him? No, I don't miss him." Emma nodded, like this made perfect sense. Then she said something that made me realize how wise children can be. "I think sometimes grown-ups are just scared kids who got bigger. That's what my teacher says. Your teacher is very smart." We spent an hour at the park. Emma showed me how high she could swing, told me about her best friend at school, asked if I liked dogs because she really wanted one. Normal kid things. She didn't ask about David again, didn't press me about the divorce or why I'd helped them. She was just a 7-year-old girl being herself, and I was grateful for that. When it was time to go, Emma hugged me, just walked up and wrapped her small arms around my waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Thank you for helping us," she whispered. I hugged her back, this child who existed because of my ex-husband's cowardice and Rebecca's strength. "You're welcome, Emma." Driving home that evening, I cried. Not sad tears exactly, more like release. For months, I'd been carrying this weight of betrayal and anger and grief. Meeting Emma didn't erase any of that, but it did something else. It reminded me that even in the wreckage of lies and broken trust, there could be something good. Emma was good. She was innocent and kind, and deserved every chance at happiness. And maybe, in some small way, I'd helped give her that chance. It's May now. The house in Newton officially went on the market yesterday. I'm moving to a condo in Cambridge, closer to my office, closer to Melissa. A fresh start in a space that doesn't echo with memories of David. I still have hard days. Days when I wonder if I missed other signs, other lies. Days when I doubt my judgment in everything. Days when I'm angry all over again at what was stolen from me. 7 years of honest partnership, the chance to have children with someone I could trust, the life I thought I was building. But I also have good days. Days when I wake up and feel light, unburdened by secrets I didn't know I was carrying. Days when I laugh with friends and mean it. Days when I look at myself in the mirror and recognize the woman looking back. I ran into David once, accidentally, at a coffee shop in Boston. He looked thinner, older. He saw me and froze, coffee cup halfway to his mouth. I could have left, could have pretended I hadn't seen him, but I didn't. I walked over to his table. "How are you?" I asked. "I'm okay, better. Therapy is helping. I'm seeing Emma every other weekend now." "That's good. She deserves consistency." "Sarah, He stopped, struggled to find words. "I know I destroyed everything. I know there's no apology big enough, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be better. Not for you, I know I lost that chance. But for Emma, and for myself." I looked at him and felt nothing. No anger, no love, no lingering attachment. Just a kind of distant sadness for the time we'd wasted. "I hope you make it work with her," I said. "She's a great kid. Don't screw it up again." "I won't. I promise." I walked away without looking back. The truth is, I don't know if David will keep that promise. I don't know if he'll be the father Emma deserves, or if he'll find some new way to fail her. That's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to myself, to rebuilding my life on a foundation of truth instead of comfortable lies. People ask me if I regret marrying David, if I wish I'd seen the signs earlier, if I'm angry that I wasted 7 years with someone who lied to me every day. The honest answer is complicated. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I grieve the time I lost. Yes, I wish I'd trusted my instincts instead of explaining away every red flag. But I also learned something valuable from this nightmare. I learned that I'm strong enough to face devastating truths and survive them. I learned that sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest thing to do. I learned that love without honesty isn't really love at all, just a beautiful lie that eventually crumbles. And I learned that even in the darkest moments, there can be redemption. Not for David, maybe, or at least not the kind he wanted, but for Emma, who now has a chance at knowing her father. For Rebecca, who doesn't have to raise her daughter alone and afraid. And for me, who got to walk away from a lie and towards something real. Last night, I got a text from Rebecca. It was a photo of Emma at her dance recital, mid-leap, her face radiant with joy. The caption read, "She asked me to send this to you. She says you're her friend." I saved that photo, put it in a frame on my new desk in my new condo. A reminder that sometimes the worst betrayals lead to unexpected gifts. Not the life you planned, but maybe the life you needed. I don't know what my future holds. Maybe I'll fall in love again. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll have children of my own someday, through pregnancy or adoption, or some other path I haven't imagined yet. Maybe I'll stay single and build a rich, full life on my own terms. What I do know is this. I will never again ignore my instincts. I will never again make myself small to accommodate someone else's lies. I will never again choose comfort over truth. David taught me that, though he never intended to. He taught me that trust, once broken, can't be glued back together with apologies and promises. He taught me that secrets don't stay buried forever. He taught me that sometimes the person you love most is the person you know least. They're hard lessons, painful lessons, but I'm grateful for them now, in a strange way. Because they made me into someone stronger, someone braver, someone who won't settle for pretty lies when she could have difficult truths. Emma is 7 years old now. In 11 years, she'll be an adult, ready to make her own choices about who she wants in her life. Maybe she'll choose to have a relationship with David. Maybe she won't. Maybe she'll understand why he did what he did, or maybe she'll never forgive him. That's her decision to make, not mine. My decision was simpler. Walk away from the man who lied, help the child who was hurt by those lies, and build a new life based on truth. I made my choice, and I'd make it again. Some nights, when I can't sleep, I still wonder about the what-ifs. What if David had told me about Emma from the beginning? What if he'd been honest about his fears and his mistakes? What if we'd faced it together instead of him hiding it for 7 years? But those are questions without answers. The past is fixed, unchangeable. All I can do is move forward. So that's what I'm doing, moving forward, one day at a time. Some days are easier than others. Some days I still catch myself thinking about David, about the life we had, about the future we'll never have. But those moments are getting rarer, less sharp. I'm healing, slowly, painfully, imperfectly, but I'm healing. And Emma is growing up with a father who, however imperfect, is at least trying to be present. She's growing up knowing she was worth fighting for, even if the person who fought for her was a stranger who became a friend. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's more than enough. I like to think that someday, when Emma is older, she'll look back on this whole mess and see not just the abandonment and lies, but also the people who tried to make it right. Rebecca, who protected her and raised her with love. David, who eventually showed up even though it was far too late. And me, the woman who could have walked away but chose instead to help. I don't need her gratitude. I don't need anyone's gratitude. I did what I did because it was right, because a child deserved better than to be collateral damage in her father's cowardice. But if someday Emma understands that, if someday she sees that even terrible situations can have people who care enough to fight for what's right, then maybe something good came from all this pain. The sun is setting now, casting golden light through the windows of my new condo. I have a date tonight, nothing serious. Just coffee with a man I met at a bookstore. He seems nice, honest. But I'm not rushing into anything. I'm taking my time, learning to trust again, learning to recognize red flags before they become disasters. I'm learning to be okay on my own first, so that if I ever share my life with someone again, it's because I want to, not because I need to. That's David's final gift to me, though he doesn't know it. He taught me that I don't need anyone to complete me. I'm already whole, already enough, all on my own. Everything else is just extra. And someday, when the pain has faded to a dull ache instead of a sharp wound, I'll be grateful for that lesson too. But today, I'm just grateful to have survived, to have made it through the worst betrayal of my life and come out the other side still standing, still hoping, still believing that honest love exists somewhere out there. It just wasn't with David. And that's okay. I'm okay. I'm going to be more than okay. I'm going to be free.